Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Q&Play. Also, please don't point out that I can't macro in the Starcraft 2 gameplay in the background. I know, okay, I came back to the game after a few years break. I don't know how to play anymore. It's my bad. Point is, let's get to the first question. Question 1 from GoldDiamond. What's your favorite Tohu Kaiju? Oh my goodness, this is a good one. So I know it's a basic pick, but right now my favorite Tohu Kaiju has got to be Shin Godzilla from the movie of the same name. This iteration of Godzilla is so epic. Epic and horrifying are the two words I would use. I love this horrifying take on the natural disaster that is Godzilla. I will say, I like heroic Godzilla, but we got heroic Godzilla. We have heroic Godzilla in the American legendary movies. Legendary Godzilla is a great iteration of the character that I really like, but if I want villainous Godzilla, I like that I can also go to the Shin Godzilla film. I like that I can also go to Godzilla Singular Point. I like that these Japanese properties are doing the villainous take on the character that makes him so intimidating. He opened up as a baddie, so having him be a baddie here is also really cool. It helps that this is a new take on the character. The evolving Shin Godzilla that went through his various forms and got these various abilities, yeah, sometimes it could be a bit over the top, like the atomic breath coming out of the back and out of the tail. Yeah, from like a thematic standpoint, it looks a little bit dorky, but honestly, I don't really care. The design is just so cool, and the scenes that he's in are always breathtaking. I'm a huge Godzilla fan, and I'm happy to see Shin Godzilla getting a lot of attention these days. The movie made a lot of buzz when it first came out, and I'm glad it's still making buzz now, even though we haven't seen anything from the character other than apparently a ride inside of Japan. Aside from Shin Godzilla, my other favorite Tohu Kaiju would have to be Biollante. I really like that character. It's a great design. I love the giant plant monster with the long Spinosaurus-esque or crocodile-esque jaw. It's just such a neat look for an evil, intimidating creature, and I like it. It looks great. I really hope that it's adapted into the legendary monsterverse. If there's one kaiju I want adapted in there, it has to be Biollante. A lot of people want Destroya, and maybe in the future, maybe a Death of Godzilla movie, we could get Destroya, but Biollante first. I love this character. It would especially fit because a lot of Godzilla movies have some kind of environmental message, and Biollante is a giant plant monster. I mean, you could definitely do some kind of environmental message with that thing. On top of that, the amount of epic kaiju fights we could have with Godzilla versus this rooted plant monster with its tentacles and such, perfect. So yeah, there you go. There's my favorite Tohu Kaiju. Got Shin Godzilla, got Biollante. There's a lot of others that I love, but yeah. I'm really glad someone asked this because I'm a big Godzilla fan. Question from SuperKrazyDog. Here's a question. I always find it hard to sit down and read a core rulebook from front to back. What is the best way to learn the rules of a chosen TTRPG, and how did you learn the rules as well? Well, reading is the primary way a lot of people learn the rules of TTRPGs, and I would argue it's the most direct way you can do it. I mean, if you have the book, yeah, going in there and just reading the thing and going through all the rules that were listed in the book, that's probably the best way to learn. But I also understand that for a lot of people, that's really hard for a variety of reasons. I mean, neurodivergence is a big one. I know a lot of my friends really struggle with parsing through the giant blocks of text with all the colorful pictures everywhere. It makes it really hard to focus in and absorb the rules. That's perfectly okay. Neurodivergence aside, also reading can be kind of boring sometimes. Let's be honest. Going through a huge compendium of rules, yeah. Not easy. Giant textbooks are just not easy to read, no matter how much you decorate them. I think first and foremost, you need to figure out the core mechanics of the game. Now, you could do this through reading the rulebook. That is the main way you do it, and usually good rulebooks will put that front and center immediately. D&D immediately introduces the idea of rolling for checks, for example. That's a core mechanic of how the game works and how the game is played. It introduces that to you immediately so that you can understand it. Once you understand the core mechanic, that's when you start branching out. But that core mechanic is central. Now, there are other ways that you can learn. There's lots of people on YouTube that do really good tutorials on how you can get into D&D. The way I learned was through example. I watched D&D games. I mean, the primary way I got into Dungeons & Dragons and being a DM after being a player for so long and only loosely understanding the rules was watching a crap ton of Critical Role. I watched so much Critical Role when I was DMing, not just because I wanted to learn the rules, but also because I liked the show. I don't think that's a really valid way to learn the rules because primarily I don't think you should be watching a show just to learn the rules to a game. I think you should be watching a show because you enjoy it. But if you happen to be watching a show that's associated with the TTRPG you want to play, that's a decent way to learn at least how the rules are used in an active situation. However, I'm going to be honest, guys, I don't have all the rules memorized off the top of my head. I understand the core mechanics of D&D and how it works, but there are certain rulings that I need to look up on Google. And while I'm not saying that you can just look up everything on the fly, I think that's really stressful for a first-time DM or GM. I think that if you understand the core mechanics, you don't need to have every single thing memorized. Like, for the love of God, I can never remember how grapple works, and I usually have to have it pulled up. If there are certain rules you think are going to come up constantly, something that you think is really, really important, for example, sanity mechanics in Call of Cthulhu are central to the way that game is played, you probably need to understand that. If you don't understand that, print it out. Put it on your GM screen. That is there for a reason, and a big reason why is so that you can note these things down. Also, accept that your first game is going to have some hiccups. It's okay to mess up sometimes. It's okay to fumble a ruling sometimes when it's your first ever time. We all make mistakes on our first try, and I think the expectation that you need to be perfect out of the gate is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Just know that the best thing you could do is pick yourself back up, figure out what you did wrong, learn from it, and move on. Trust me on this much. You've got this. Question from Frog Snacks. Have you ever been attracted to another player's character before? Asking for a friend. No. Question from Stachelbeeerchen. What do you enjoy more, salty snacks or sweet snacks? Oh man, this is a tough one. You have presented me with a moral conflict that must be resolved. I have to say salty, but sweet is also good. I like variety when it comes to my snacking. Recently, sweet has been my primary, but I know throughout my life, I mean stuff like Cheez-Its, Goldfish, pretzels, those make up most of my snacking. But recently, I have gotten my hands on a box of Girl Scout cookies, or 3 boxes of Girl Scout cookies, so I'm primarily snacking on stuff like that, or a giant box of hundreds of fruit snacks. I've been primarily snacking on that. So yeah, by principle of inventory, sweet has taken over, but I know in my heart that salty snacks will always be my bread and butter. They get me through rough days. Whenever I'm feeling down, I pop open a bag of chips, and that makes me feel better. It also makes me feel really sick, because I'm eating something that's generally pretty unhealthy for me. But you know what? Moving on. Question from NoseTrashDaMus. What are your top 5 favorite video game series of all time? In no particular order. Oh god. So, I'm really bad with favorite questions. I don't like these most of the time, but at least you gave me 5 to choose from. Okay, first up, Destiny. I love Destiny. The shooting feels great. The world building is incredible, and while the in-game story can sometimes take a back seat, I generally really enjoy the game. Destiny is the old reliable. It's the virtual world I've sunk so much time into. It's my new World of Warcraft. I mean, WoW I fell out of, but Destiny's been with me for, I mean, at this point, 8 years, and I've really, really enjoyed my time with it. Actually, I think I've been with the game for 9 years now, so, that's something I don't want to think too much about, but point is, Destiny is a big part of my life, a special part of my life, something I will always hold dear to my heart, though I think a lot of people already figured that out. One of my backgrounds for RPG horror stories prominently features Thorn, so yeah. Definitely something that's kind of obvious. Alright, the other one, Minecraft. Minecraft is a big part of my life as well. Minecraft has been a big part of my life for a long, long time. It was the first game I ever really got into, even before Destiny. I just loved building in Minecraft. It's such a great way to express creativity. I love modding Minecraft. I love servers. I mean, just last month, the featured game was Bed Wars in Minecraft, so clearly I love playing the game. And, on top of that, my whole D&D party has recently just gotten addicted to Minecraft, PvP Minecraft Online specifically, so I've been playing more Minecraft than ever, and honestly, I'm having a blast. I've never played like this with a group of people. I've always been doing single-player modded worlds, so now I just love the game more than ever. I'm trying to choose carefully because I only have 3 slots left, so what am I going to put in there? Okay, next up, Ghost of Tsushima. It is one game, but damn, Ghost of Tsushima is a phenomenal game. The gameplay is stellar. Best third-person combat I've ever played through. And even though, yes, to a lot of people, they think, oh, it's just another third-person combat game, to me, it's just so fluid and fun and awesome. I absolutely love the way Ghost of Tsushima works its combat. It makes you feel just so bad badass. I like the story a lot. I love the world that it takes place in. I mean, obviously, Tsushima is a real place, but the island is like a heightened version of it, and I love the way they did it. The game is also just gorgeous, best graphics I've ever seen. It's not realistic. I mean, obviously, a lot of the lighting is a little bit too much for real life, but that's the point. It's better than realistic. That's what makes it so good. Not everything needs to be grounded in realism. Sometimes you could just make it look better, and that's exactly what Ghost of Tsushima does. They even made a multiplayer mode called Legends for free. That was awesome too. So yeah, obviously Ghost of Tsushima, great game. Amazing. Put it up there with some of my favorites of all time. I'm honestly stuck between Uncharted and God of War for the next one. I love the Uncharted series a lot. Those games are incredible. Nathan Drake, Elena Fisher, my main man, Victor. All those guys are awesome. I love the cast. I love the gameplay. I just love everything about Uncharted. But I also really like the God of War games. Mostly the new ones, though obviously the old God of War games with you killing your way to the Greek gods, also amazing. But man, this is tough. We'll just say both. And then to end off, I mean, I was gonna say Hades, but then I remembered I also really like the original Sonic Genesis games. So yeah, we'll throw those in there. I think that's like 6-7 games, but it's pretty much an impossible question for me to answer. I'm gonna be honest. I like a lot of video games. What can I say? Question from Spectra Spark. So apparently Tyranny of the Dragons got a remake taking player feedback into account. Are you curious to see if they improved Horde of the Dragon Queen? No, I'm not curious. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sure it's much better now, but honestly, first and foremost, I don't really run modules anymore. For the last few years, I've just been running my own homebrew campaigns. That's what I enjoy doing, and I'd much prefer to do that rather than run a pre-written module. It just gives me much more flexibility in my storytelling, and while yes, I could adjust a module, at that point, I might as well just make something up myself, because eventually, I always come up with an idea that I like more, because it comes from my brain. Not trying to trash on modules, by the way. They are great, and there's a lot of modules that I genuinely like, but they just aren't really my thing anymore. On top of that, I'm an extremely petty and mean person, and when something pisses me off once, it pisses me off for all eternity. I never forgive! I will hate Horde of the Dragon Queen for an eternity! And you can't stop me. I'm completely joking. If you enjoy Horde of the Dragon Queen, you're completely fine. Go enjoy Horde of the Dragon Queen. Revision or no revision, just have fun with whatever game you're playing. I really am not going to stop you. Or am I? Question from Mr. WD. What is the most toxic fandom you are a part of? Or maybe a fandom you were a part of? Why did I include this question? It's just going to get me in trouble. I know that there are some fandoms I am a part of that are toxic, like famous for being toxic, but I just had no idea because I spend so little time on social media with the exception of YouTube. So any controversies that happen with Undertale, I don't really get to be a part of that because I only really interact with Undertale as somebody who played the game and listened to the music, and that's it. So apparently, Undertale is a really toxic fandom, but honestly, I had no idea. It's so big that I just didn't ever realize it. I will say, now that I'm saying this question out loud, I think every fandom that I've been a part of, every group or community, they've all got toxic people and toxic individuals. I mean, I just said I'm a huge Destiny guy. Yeah, Destiny, it's definitely had its toxic moments, for God's sakes. Every time there's a mass wave of nerfs to our gear, people freak the hell out, and then a week later, it's all good, because at the end of the day, nerfs are just part of gaming. You freak out about it one day, and then the next day, you just move on with your life after you find something that's just as good as that thing once was. Because of the way I interact with social media, which is very rarely, I only really watch YouTube videos on my subscription feed, and that's it. I don't browse. I don't scroll endlessly looking through all of this randomly generated, well, seemingly randomly generated recommendations, eventually finding something. I just watch stuff I know I'm gonna like. Very rarely do I pull up content that is brand new to me. Now, when that happens and I find something brand new that I love, it's really, really awesome, but normally I just stick to the stuff I already know, which means I usually avoid these sort of toxic fandom discussions, with the exception of stuff that's just so big, I can't avoid it. Very rarely do I involve myself in a controversy that's caused because of, a community thing. Usually it's some kind of corporate move. For example, the OGL stuff was a big discussion that was really controversial, but that wasn't caused because of community problems. That was caused because a company did something dumb. That's different to me, so I don't count that. All in all, I think we've all been a part of toxic fandoms. I mean, I was a big Undertale fan, and apparently that has a super toxic fandom. I was a part of that, but I never interacted with that, and frankly, never even knew it was happening at the time. So, yeah, I have to say I've never left a fandom because of some kind of big toxic community development, because I usually don't even realize that kind of thing is happening. I mean, really, this whole discussion is just showcasing how much of a hermit I am. Final question from Probably Phoenix. I'm currently writing a campaign set in a month or so. What is your best advice for a first-time DM running with a bunch of seasoned players? An alternative question is how much homebrew should I allow at my table to keep things balanced? Okay. So, first off, as a new DM, that's awesome. I'm so happy you're running your first game. I do think you need to remember, first and foremost, that you need to prioritize what you as a DM can do. I know you're running for seasoned players. You should understand what they want as players. But on top of that, you need to realize what you can do as a DM. You're brand new. If you can't run a massive political conspiracy, don't do that. Because, first and foremost, you need to remember that they're going to want something good. No matter how experienced you are, you want a good experience. That's what everyone wants. And if you can't do that because you're too focused on doing something out of your skill range, it's not going to be good. So focus on something that can be in your skill range. Run a module that you're comfortable with. Run combats that are reasonable for you as a DM. You don't need to do something super mechanically complex for your first time because, again, first time, you're going to learn those things eventually, and maybe you can learn them right now, but just do what you can as a DM. You might be different from me. I wasn't really good with those mechanically complex fights immediately. You might be. Just do what you can. I think ideally, you're going to have players that understand you're new to the game. I assume your players understand that and are cool with that. Ask them what they want as players. Ask them what they want out of Dungeons & Dragons, their favorite parts of the game, and use that to frame how you're going to prep the game and what parts you're going to focus on. Even if you're running a module, modules are generally used as blueprints. In a module, you can focus on certain things more. You can focus more on combat or focus more on roleplay, depending on what your players want. As for homebrew, that's another great question. How much homebrew should you allow? Again, whatever you think is necessary for you as a game master. I love homebrew. Homebrew is a big part of all my games. Even when I was a new GM, I was using a crap ton of homebrew. But at the end of the day, homebrew is not for everybody. Not everyone's going to want to sift through tons of homebrew. That was something I was comfortable doing, but maybe you're not the same way. Think about what's reasonable for your prep. Can you take hours out of your prep time to looking through homebrew classes or homebrew specs that your players want to do? If the answer is no, then just simply tell them, hey, we're running official stuff only. I'm sure you already know much of this as a big brain Crispy's Tavern viewer, but honestly, I just wish you the best of luck. You gotta remember, like I said earlier, your first game might be rough, and that's okay. It's your first ever time. You have no experience, and nobody's expecting you to have experience because you have none, put simply. So, look, you're gonna make mistakes, and that's fine. When you make mistakes, the best thing you can do is learn from them, and I'm sure that's exactly what you plan to do as a game master, and frankly, that makes you awesome. Mistakes withstanding, I'm sure you're gonna do your best, and I'm sure your game is going to be great. Alright, and that's going to be it for today's episode of RPG. Wait, what? Alright, and that's going to be it for today's episode of Q&Play. If you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our RPG horror story series where we cover the best of the worst of Dungeons & Dragons, and while you're there in the cards, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own questions or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment Zerg Rush to let me know you made it to the end of the video. And that's like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna go grab some food because I'm starving right now. Until next time, guys, farewell.